Good evening, Advice to Go group. Excited to be here. I'm gonna give it a few minutes to see if we get some live attendees in. I was trying to do it from my computer, and as many people have been trying to do Facebook Lives lately, it's always been acting a little finicky. I was getting an error message, so we're gonna do it from my phone just to get it out there and get it to you guys. But I'm Mike Claudio. I own WinRate Consulting. I am a sales, business development, and leadership coach for contractors, mostly in-home contractors like remodelers, flooring, cabinets, countertops, that kind of thing. But when you're selling a product or service to homeowners, it is pretty much consistent across the board on how they want to be communicated with. So my background is sales and leadership. I was vice president of sales for a remodeling company, and then I was vice president of sales for a roofing company. And then for the last 18 months or so, I've been a full-time business coach. And lots of fun. I deal with a lot of business owners on a daily basis. I have my own Facebook group called Construction Selling. I have obviously my own products and services. I'm not going to get into too much on this one, but just want to make this more about you guys. So there are 5 parts that I believe are the most important when it comes to the sales process and dealing with homeowners. And I don't think this is industry specific. I don't think this is geographically specific. I think this is anytime you are dealing with kind of any sales call, to be honest, but primarily in person, because you are entering their home, you are invading their space. They have a negative connotation in their mind as to what a contractor is going to be about. So 5 things. Let's dive into it. First thing, you've got to break the ice. You've got to get them kind of out of that I'm here to battle you mindset. And one of the best things that I did to do that was find some sort of level ground to get them to start talking about themselves. And the best way that I found to do that was to give a compliment and ask a question. So you walk in their house, or you walk in their yard, or you walk in their backyard, or whatever it is, and something simple as, "That's a great picture of your family. When was that taken?" Or, "This is an amazing kitchen. Did you remodel this?" Or, "Man, I love your pool. Was that here when you bought it, or did you put that in yourself?" Try and keep it open-ended. Give them an opportunity to speak about themselves. The more you can keep it about the person in front of you or their family, the better off it'll be. I always like the family picture one. A lot of people have pictures kind of in their front corridor there when you walk in their home, but that is a great family picture. When was that taken? Gets them talking about themselves. And what you do is you start to kind of break down that wall that every homeowner has, whether you know them, don't know them, whether it was a referral, a cold lead, or whatever it is. They are there to try and battle you. Whether they believe it or not, it's subconsciously is how they're going to approach that call. So the minute you get them talking about themselves, they're like, you're just want to hear about me? Let me talk about me. The second thing is you want to build rapport. There are a lot of different ways to go about this. The way I teach it and the way I think works the best is you want to sit down and talk about their decision environment, their decision background, their decision criteria, their decision priorities, the decision players, the decision timeline. This is where you get them really talking about what's driving this interaction, what's driving the decision, when it needs to happen, who's involved. Have they been a part of a decision like this before? Have they been a part of a project like this before? If so, how'd it go? If so, what went well, what didn't go well with that last contractor? A lot of us deal with people who have done projects either on this home or the previous home at some point in their life of living there. So it's important to go about doing that in a way that gets them and gets them opening up about what's happening, why, when, who, how, all of that, but also helps you kind of get some nuggets of information that you can utilize back to them. A lot of people wait till the end to do this part. I like doing it before I get into the scope collection period, because what it allows me to do is to help harp on the positives that they're expecting, and also talk about and make some value-added suggestions to help overcome some fears they might have. Because they're going to talk about their priorities, their fears, their risks, their concerns as part of that decision criteria, background, and timeline. And allows you, as you're walking through the project, it doesn't matter if this is interior, exterior, small, big, it doesn't matter. When you're walking through the scope collection phase, this is the third part. You need to be doing value-added suggestions. You need to tell them what they want to do that won't work, what they want to do that will work, and then ultimately here are some things you may not have thought of. One, as the contractor, allows you to potentially upsell or expand on the scope a little bit. But second, what it does allows you to show yourself as the expert. When you go about it that way and you're sitting there talking to them about it, like, oh man, I never thought of that. That's a great idea. I should totally do that. And now you're valuing the project more. You're making it more of an experience, because if you don't realize this right now, there is nothing competitive that we offer as home service companies other than the experience. You have access to the same subs, the same material, the same products, the same everything. It's how you get them from point A to point B that differentiates you. So your ability to talk them through that, overcome some of their fears by talking about your protection process, but talk about how you tape off, mark off, plastic off rooms, the way that you go about managing your subs, the way you go about potential change orders, or where you're making some assumptions along the way. All of this happens during that scope collection, because this is where you really get to differentiate yourself as an expert. Trust me, even if they might be disappointed something won't work, they expect you to tell them that. They don't expect you to be an order taker, because if they knew everything they needed to know about the project, they wouldn't need you to begin with. So get in and really dig into owning that part of the process, like the scope collection part, and helping them understand what will or won't work for their priorities, what will or won't work for their budget, what will or won't work or might be in addition to part of the reason they're making the decision to help them do that. You know, something as simple as, hey, you're going to be expanding on the back of the house. Have you considered switching the whole roof so all the shingles match? Oh, I didn't think about that. No, they probably won't match. That's a 20-year-old roof. Hey, well, let me just quote it for that for you, just so that the roof will look really clean from the beginning, as opposed to having, it's going to be really difficult to match that shingle. So I want to make sure that you're happy. If you don't want to spend the money, that's fine. Just expect there's going to be some variation in the shingle color. Having that conversation, that initial scope review is a lot different than coming back at the end of the project. They're going, the shingles don't match. And you're like, well, I thought that'd be pretty obvious. No, it's not going to be obvious to them. So once you've gone through that, you've broken the ice, you've built rapport, you've collected scope, you've given some really strong, powerful, value-added suggestions what they want to do, this is where you need to do the soft close. Asking for the sale in the sense of trying to understand where you sit on the totem pole in their decision-making. And the simplest way to do that is, if I'm able to accomplish what you want within your budget by your time frame, are you prepared to move forward with me or us, or however you say that within your business? And this is really where you kind of do put them on the spot to make a decision, or at least explain to you why no. If they say no, we're not, well, what's stopping you? And you'll understand what objections you might have, what competition you might be dealing with, what really is going on here. Because all the time, we've all done it. We're like, hey, I'll get you a proposal. Let me know if you have any questions. Looking forward to working with you. And then 3, 4, 5 weeks later, like, man, I haven't heard back from them at all. I've called 3, 4 times. It's likely because you missed part of the objection, you missed part of the competition, you missed part of why they wouldn't have hired you. But ultimately, what this allows you to do is understand, what do you need to give, do, or provide to give yourself the best chance to win the business? Because that's ultimately what we're there for. We're not professional estimators. We are there to close deals. So this soft close, once you've kind of collected that scope, you say, okay, great, I understand your decision timeline. We've talked a little bit about budget. Now we understand the scope. So you're saying, hey, if I can accomplish this scope of work within your budget by the time that you're saying you need it done, are you prepared to move forward with me? It is a powerful question, because if they say yes, now you're excited about it. Now you put a little extra effort in. We've all had those clients that were a little on the fence about it. You're like, man, I don't want to spend all this time doing this proposal for this person. Like, they're not even going to hire me anyway, or it's not a good project for me. Well, you go into it with a bad mindset, which does not give you the best chance to close the deal. So in this case, asking that, are you prepared to move forward with me if I can accomplish X by Y within Z? However you want to break that into your ecosystem, or how you present proposals. Some of us do one-call closes. I don't think it's how clients really operate anymore, but you could still do that. Even if it's a one-call close and you don't have to come back with a proposal later, you can still say at that point, are you prepared to move forward with me? Kind of a prepping them for that next conversation. But ultimately going about it that way. And the last thing, 1 call, 2 call, follow-up, whatever your process is, once you have all that information, you've got to set proper next steps. I've seen people say, if they don't buy first time, I'm never calling them back. I will tell you 40+% of the sales I've had in the home service industry are equated directly to follow-up. And I've sold over $10 million in projects in about a 5 to 6 year period. That's $4 million. $4 million in revenue that came directly from follow-up. So you are not, and I'm going to talk to you like you're one of my clients. You are not allowed to end a conversation with a homeowner, client, sub, or employee without a defined next step and date for that conversation. It's one of the biggest misses I see salespeople make. It's a big miss that I made for a while, just thinking like, oh, people have integrity, they'll get back to me. No, you're going to get ghosted, and it's happened to all of us. So before you end that meeting, the fifth and final thing you need to do is set a next step. What is the conversation? What needs to happen for that conversation? Who owns it? And get it on the calendar. Literally, send them a calendar invite right there in that meeting saying, hey, I'm going to get your proposal by Wednesday. Can I give you a call on Friday just to follow up, make sure you guys have any questions? Yeah, it'd be great. Hey, how would 1 o'clock work? No, actually 2:30 would be better. Because we've all had that voicemail tag, that back and forth, that I called you, you called me, we're both busy because neither of us were really expecting each other's calls. So let's go through this. Set the next step. Define it. Make sure everybody understands when it's going to happen and literally put it on the calendar. So to recap real quick, first, break the ice. Ask a question. Give a compliment. Ask a question. Build rapport by understanding their decision process, criteria, timeline, and players. You want to understand who's involved, when it's going to happen, why it's happening, has it happened before? If so, what did or did they not like about it? And also, if not, they have not been a part of the decision before, what are they most fearful of or nervous about when making this decision? Collect information, collect scope. Part of collecting scope is giving proper information, value-added suggestions, and telling them what they want won't work. Like that's really what you're trying to do, because if you don't tell them that now and you give them a proposal for it 3 weeks later that's 60% over budget, you look like you don't know what you're doing. So if you feel like something that they're asking for, a part of scope, is not going to work, don't be afraid to tell them that, because it makes you the expert. Yes, you're letting them down. Yes, you're probably going to upset them, but you are the expert. That's why you're there. Soft close. Once you've gotten all of that, if I can do X by Y within Z, are you prepared to move forward with me? Then now you can handle real objections, or you can understand, hey, this is a project that I'm pretty likely to win. And then set next steps. Very, very define next steps with deadlines and schedule it. Put it on the calendar, because that puts both people, it reminds them that it's coming. It makes sure that they're prepared for it, and it gives you the right information around when and how to follow up, because we've all had those situations where we've been like, well, I don't want to bug them. I don't want to follow up too fast. Now you don't have to think about that, and your salespeople don't have to think about that, because they've already agreed. You've already used permission-based selling to get them to agree and tell you when was the best time and what was the best day to follow up with them. So guys, I'm Mike Claudio, owner of WinRate Consulting. If you're not in it yet, Construction Selling Facebook group, would love to have you in there posting regular content. There's a bunch of people in there that like to share best practices and stories around closing deals. But also check out my website, WinRate Consulting, or my podcast, Big Stud Sales. I put out a new episode every week. There's a bunch of great information there, and would love to engage with you. So thank you guys so much for watching. Comment below if you had any value from this. Comment below if you have any additional questions. I'd love to engage with you and kind of answer your specific problems, because everybody's a little different. Everybody ecosystem is different. Everybody client space is different. So if you have anything specifically around the sales process in regards to those 5 points or not, I'd love to try and help you. So comment below with your questions, and I'll answer them. So thanks again, group. Advice to Go. Thank you, Invoice to Go, for having me on. And hopefully we'll see you guys in here again. Have a great night.